So my name is CGhirardo, but I go by the artist name CGhirardo, and this talk is about my work, Neo-Humanism, Contemporary Figure Painting. So first of all, I just want to thank both Marie and Bev for allowing me to have this artist talk at Image Maker. That basically came out of the idea of why I do the figures the way I do them. So I think the first thing I want to do is just talk a little bit about a little bit of background. I basically started wanting to draw comics for a living. I went to school, and I just couldn't break into the business. So I had to make a living. So the way I made a living was basically freelance illustration. So I focused on my freelance illustration career. I did okay, I did fine, but what started happening was there was a downturn in the market. Then my son was born, and the decision my wife and I made was that I was going to stay home and raise the child while she worked. So I had all this free time, because to be an illustrator, to get work as an illustration, you have to be constantly out there, constantly showing your work, constantly trying to get work, but I didn't have the time. So at that point in my life, I decided that I had to do something. I wasn't sure what. And for some reason, I got into my thought of becoming an artist. So I had to tell myself, well, how do I start this? So what happened was, as I was taking care of my son, we would go to the library a lot to get books and play. And I would pick up books on art, on artists, and learn more and more about them. So I said, okay, so I figured I had a bit of a starting point. So what I started doing is I started focusing on the human figure, because that's something I really enjoy. And when you're in comics, that's what you're looking at all the time. So I was doing these paintings of the figures, and I was getting really bored. And I don't know why. So I wanted to do something with it. So one day I was in my studio, and I'm drawing this figure, and it just wasn't coming out right. And I was getting so irritated, so angry, that by accident I drew the arm in 3 joints. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, damn it. And then I said to myself, I don't know, this looks really interesting. There's something going on here. I don't know what's going on here, but there's something here. So what I started doing is doing more and more practicing, and just to see how it feels, how it felt. So then I decided I would try my very first painting, using this new technique, which eventually became Neo-Humanism. So the first piece I did was this one right here. The interesting thing is the way I work is I kind of get pieces from different areas and different thoughts, and then I bring it together. So in this case, this is actually the actress Connie Booth, who's a well-known actress in Britain, who I saw in the show Fawlty Towers. And I combined this actually when I was in New York with this one lady who I saw was eating noodles. And I kind of get the idea of basically stuffing yourself, stuffing your face. So then what I started doing is playing with the arm. And as you can tell, even by the rendering, it's very slick, it's very clean, because basically the illustration world is how it has to be. So I still hadn't perfected my painting technique. So this was the first start, and I also did it to see how I would feel when I did this. How would it come out? And I kept playing with it. Then I came up with an idea what to do with the eye. And the eye here, I got the idea from looking at the works of Modigliani, who actually would do these nude figures, and you would not see it. You would not see any eyeballs. You like seeing through somebody. And I kind of liked that idea of being able to see into somebody. So I started looking more about how to do that, how to actually see inside somebody. And even though some people talk about that my work should be really influenced by Salvador Dali, actually my main influence was actually Pablo Picasso. And Picasso at one point actually played with surrealism. So I kind of used him as my reference point. Now, as you can tell here, you also still see a bit of the background. And in this next piece over here, I continued playing with that same concept about the joint. And for me, what I found as I'm doing this joining, I was thinking a lot about artists like Lucian Freud and Sir Stanley Spencer, who actually distorted the figure. It seemed what was happening to me, there was more of a humanity being seen. In other words, what I'm saying is that a lot of times when we look at our bodies, we don't always recognize that it's easily breakable. It could be damaged very easily. We just see it as being normal. And yet, this body that we have has a certain strength to it. There's a certain life in it. A book that influenced me very heavily years ago was the book Biospirituality, where it was founded on a professor by the name of Dr. Chardin, who found that the human body actually is a storehouse of memory and knowledge as well, that the mind can't comprehend. And so in a way, what I'm doing along with the body as it's doing this, it's like the body's communicating. The body's talking. And in this case, what he's doing is basically he's busy doing the crossword puzzles, and the body's kind of reacting to that actual motion of action that's taking place. One of the things that also is consistent, you'll see also in this piece over here, is the idea of the hand coming out of the eye. The simplest way to explain it is the hand and eye coordination. And it happens a lot, we don't even realize it. Like, for instance, when you're driving, and I remember this from a driving instructor, he said that one of the best ways not to worry about where you have to turn, just keep looking at the road. And if you see a bend in the road, you will naturally just turn the wheel because your eyes are seeing that. So it's the same thing with the eye, that basically the eye is kind of, the hand is following what the eye is seeing. And again, it's the body kind of interacting within its environment. And I just want to talk a little bit about the environment, because you'll see here that my next piece is you don't see a lot of background as you see here and with the lady. Environment to me is more something you feel, something you sense. I think sometimes when we think of environment, it's something physical, but it's not. For instance, you're inside here right now, you get one sense of feeling. You go outside, you get another sense of feeling. If it's a sunny day, you have a different sense of feeling than when it's nighttime. So for me, the body is also working within the environment it's in. It's kind of reacting to it. So whatever emotion it's doing, it's working in conjunction with the environment. So what I started doing is I started breaking the background down as a form of environment and giving it much more life as well. So it's like both the environment and the body are working together, there's a communication happening, and there's something going on. There was an interesting thing about Dr. Chardin when he was talking about the body actually having stored lots of knowledge. He said that the way the body talks to the mind is actually through memories and through symbols. So whatever symbols that come into you, it's the body talking to you. He also said that the body reacts to feelings, not so much as emotion, but feelings like something it senses, almost like if you were touching the bark of a tree or the smoothness of a piece of metal. So in this next one right here, this was actually, as I said, I do sometimes a lot of sketches. This was I was at the second cup nearby here, where I saw this man reading the newspaper, and I was intrigued by again his movement of his body as he's holding it, as he's reading it, and I don't know why, but for some reason I started actually giving the head a little bit more of a curve. So what I was doing quite a bit with this was, it's almost like the fact that he's reading the newspaper is becoming his environment. That's his environment, so he's actually reacting to what he's reading. And I asked the question, can the environment be created just by our own presence? So so I was kind of really playing with that whole idea of how this man's world environment is basically what he's reading the paper. And the eye that I developed as time goes on was more to show what's going on within the person. And usually what was interesting is most people, when they look at it, they actually say, is the eye looking at me, the viewer, or am I looking at the eye of the person inside of them? But that's a question I keep it open. So then with the next piece right here, again, this was a lady who I saw at the second cup. And I was intrigued by her body language, but also because of the fact that I was actually looking at her from behind. And I kind of, what was interesting to me is how she's at the laptop right now. What's interesting to me these days is that they talk about how technology is supposed to actually make our life simpler. But if anything, what they're finding is our life is even busier now with technology. And it kind of reminds me of a quote by Jasper Johns when he talked about, when it comes to painting, he doesn't like anything minimalistic or simple because he says everything looks busy to him. And I think that's kind of a comment on our world these days. We're always busy. We're always active. So in a way, to me, the body is kind of reacting or moving with this busyness that we have within us. And to me, with this lady right here, what's happening is like she's like reaching into the laptop. She's trying to connect to some people in the world around her, even though there's nobody there. And that in fact becomes her environment. So her body is kind of trying to react within that environment that she's kind of creating for herself. One of the other things you'll notice quite a bit is I use a lot of scribbles on the pieces. That came about when years ago what I was doing with the original drawing, the paintings, is I kept feeling that there was something missing in the pieces. And I couldn't figure out what it was. What's missing? And I was looking at the works of Cy Twomley and Jean-Michel Basquiat, who use a lot of scratches and scribbles in their works. So I said to myself, could something like that work with the human figure? So I tried it out on the first one there, and what I found is it actually gave something. And what it gave to it, it's almost as though, this could be the hard part to really explain. Scientists say that between people and objects, there's no empty space really. There is something there. Molecules, you know, and air. And so there's something there. And our movements within the environment we're in actually impact something else, which is something we call chaos theory. Whatever actions we have actually impacts something next to us, and that impacts something else. So to me, the scribbles are a way to show that there's more going on than what you're seeing. There's something happening there. And I also kind of like the idea that what it does is it plays with the two-dimensional space it's in as well, at the painting. Instead of getting the illusion that it is three-dimensional, there's something happening there, it kind of breaks that away. I would say it's almost like having, I don't know if you've ever heard of anything called facial vision. It's a really interesting thing. They say that blind people develop these and boxers. And what facial vision basically is a blind person can know where your hand is or where you're standing just by feeling the air on their faces. So if you're moving or you move a hand, they know where it is. Just because, and they say boxers develop this. So in other words, when a boxer knows when a punch is coming, not because they see it, but because as the hand is moving, they feel the air and they move because they know a punch is coming. So the kind of scribbles also show that there's something, as you're moving, as you're acting, there's something happening there. So in my work overall, my real purpose is I'm not looking at the world or looking at people academically or thinking about it. I'm more focused about the experience. What are you experiencing here? What's this person experiencing as they're on the laptop, as they're reading, as they're eating, as they're pointing? What are they experience? What's the experience behind it? I remember a sound artist I met years ago where she did a recording of her father who had developed dementia. And she played it. And one of the things she talked about is that we need to move from the cerebral to the corporeal. In other words, to think more about our bodies and how our bodies are impacting us in our day-to-day lives. And I guess for me, the body is basically based on experiences. So the thing that I am always questioning is, what came first? The idea or the experience? Did an idea lead to an experience, or does the experience lead to an idea? And that's the kind of question I question whenever I see a person. My name is CGhirardo, but I go by the artist name CGhirardo, and this talk is about my work, Neo-Humanism, Contemporary Figure of Painting.